Here are the top stories for today, August 31, 2021. As deaths are stemmed despite an increase in the number of infected patients, President Duterte calls for a recalibrated response against the spread of COVID-19. Malacanang says the support for the ICC probe on the war on drugs does not mean a drop in the support for the government's anti-drug policy. The Labor Department rescues and brings home 250 distressed Filipinos from Kuwait. And a member of the United Church of Christ in the Philippines dares its leaders to prove that they are not coddling communist terrorist groups. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte is looking to a recalibrated response by the government against COVID-19 amid the continuing rise of cases in the country. In his pre-taped talk to the people on Monday, the president said officials are re-evaluating whether a granular or localized lockdown would work best. He noted that while the number of cases went up, fewer people are dying from the virus due to the recent implementation of the enhanced community quarantine.
Whether the rise in the number of cases is due to the Delta variant or not, we need to recalibrate our response. Although we have seen the positive effect of the recent ECQ and NCR, which lowered the reproduction rate, humina ang hawaan of the virus, we are also evaluating whether granular or localized lockdowns would work best in our current situation. Let us continue to be safe from COVID and its variant by ganon rin continuing to observe our minimum public health standards, mask, hugas, iwas. And please vaccinated as soon as your turn comes and avoid being complacent about protocols.
Amid the government's efforts to contain COVID-19, Duterte slammed several senators who are believed to be unfairly pursuing investigations on the alleged misuse of funds. He said these senators have been calling for committee hearings only to discredit others without letting them defend themselves, so they could pursue their political agenda. President Duterte expressed his intention to form a task force against the illegal recruitment as one of the many perks intended for overseas Filipino workers. In his pre-taped talk to the people on Monday, the president noted how illegal recruiters easily get away with their crimes due to having lots of funds. He said he wants a unit of the Philippine National Police in cooperation with the National Bureau of Investigation to go after illegal recruiters. Duterte also called on Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea to look for funds as he proposed providing up to 3 billion pesos in scholarships to children of OFWs. Manila has vaccinated more than 70% of its target population with over 1.9 million doses administered to residents. More on this from Marita Moay.
The city government of Manila has vaccinated more than 70% of its target population with over 760,000 fully protected against the coronavirus. Citing data from the Manila Health Department, Manila Mayor Francisco Domagoso said the city has administered a total of 1.9 million COVID-19 vaccine doses. As of 6 p.m., a total of 1.2 million persons have received the first dose, while 767,500 have been fully vaccinated. Once vaccines becomes available in health centers, Domagoso said house-to-house vaccination would be carried out. Meanwhile, a barangay in Pasig is offering free online medical consultations to help its residents with their medical needs. The Barangay San Antonio Online Doctor Consultation Project was recently launched to provide a free consultation to barangay residents in the comfort of their homes. BSA Chairman Raymond Lising said this program will decongest hospitals and health centers and also limit face-to-face interaction between patients and doctors as an anti-COVID-19 measure. The telemedicine service is available every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. In Quezon City, the city government gave its eligible ECQ beneficiaries until Tuesday to claim the national government financial aid. The city government officially wrapped up its distribution on August 28, but there are still over 89,000 households that have yet to claim their ECQ ayuda on their schedules. As of August 28, about 747,000 families have claimed between 1,000 pesos and 4,000 pesos from various distribution centers. The national government downloaded 2.48 billion pesos to Quezon City intended for some 850,000 families. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muaje.
The 36 crew members of a cargo vessel are currently in quarantine after 20 of them tested positive for COVID-19. The Maritime Industry Authority temporarily suspended the operation of MV San Rafael II, a cargo vessel of Giant Transportation and Logistics provider to go. The ship is staying at the Iloilo-Guimaras Strait. The 20 patients were meanwhile taken to the Haro 1 Elementary School, while the 16 were transferred to a hotel quarantine facility on Monday afternoon. Meantime, the Bureau of Quarantine approved the ship's plan to deploy new staff to be provided by its crewing agency. The vessel will also undergo disinfection protocols before the crew replacement. Public hospitals in Western Visayas have increased their bed capacity dedicated to COVID-19 cases to about 54%. The Department of Health Western Visayas Center for Health Development noted that the region is at moderate risk due to the increase in cases. As of August 29, about 61% of the 609 COVID-19 ward beds, 62% of the 239 intensive care unit beds, and 64% of the over 1,400 isolation beds are occupied. Spokesperson Dr. Bea Camille Natalaray also said the agency also provides personnel augmentation to help them in catering to COVID-19 infections. On Sunday, Western Visayas recorded an additional 3 cases of the Alpha variant, 5 Beta, and 17 Delta variants. The region reported a total of 12,255 active cases. Meanwhile, in Iloilo City, the local government rolled out its barangay-based vaccination Monday, starting in the biggest villages. The barangay-based vaccination was in response to the request of officials so they can have a wider and immediate reach amid the threat of the Delta variant. The initial rollout covered 9 barangays, namely San Isidro and Balabago in Haro, Baldoza in La Paz, Santo Rosario and Estanzuela in the city proper, Bakhao in Mandurriao, Boulevard in Molo, and Calaparan in Arevalo, and Po Obrero in Lapus. Door-to-door vaccinations were also conducted for those who cannot go to the venue, such as the bedridden and the elderly. Meantime, the city government temporarily suspended open inoculations every Thursday, as well as the operation of mega sites. The One Health Pass will be ready for use for travelers and returning overseas Filipinos beginning September 1. Bureau of Quarantine Director Roberto Salvador Jr. said the One Health Pass's purpose is to reduce the inconvenience that OFWs encounter going home. He said the One Health Pass automates all the processes into a paperless set of procedures where travelers and returning overseas Filipinos would need to register from their point of origin on only once. All information would be passed on to concerned agencies such as Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA, Department of Tourism or DOT, Maritime Industry Authority, Philippine Coast Guard, and Overseas Shipping Service. He said the One Health Pass is user-friendly as it requests only for personal details and other information like flight details, among others. Still to come, Malacanang says the support for the ICC probe on the war on drugs does not mean a drop in the support for the government's anti-drug policy. And the Labor Department rescues and brings home 250 distressed Filipinos from Kuwait. Details ahead? Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
If you are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective. I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. The palace is unfazed by a report saying 94% of drug war victims back the findings of a former International Criminal Court prosecutor finding basis to probe the country's drug campaign for alleged crimes against humanity. In a statement, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says the public redacted registry report on victims' representation submitted to the ICC trial chamber of August 27 is more of the opinion of victims seeking the probe rather than an erosion of support of Filipinos. He adds Duterte is a democratically elected leader who has the overwhelming support of the people. As an independent local survey showed, 88% of Filipinos back the country's anti-drug campaign. Roque also reiterates that the Philippines has no obligation to cooperate with the ICC following its withdrawal from the Rome Statute. Last June, former ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda sought authorization from the ICC's pre-trial chamber to allow the conduct of a probe into the alleged crime against humanity in the Duterte administration's crackdown on illegal drugs. Malacanang says the release of President Rodrigo Duterte's Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth, or SALN, is now up to the Office of the Ombudsman. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says Duterte has already complied with his constitutional duty to file the document and that those who would want to get a copy of it may file a request before the Ombudsman. This as Vice President Leni Robredo challenged Duterte to make public his net worth if he is truly serious about fighting corruption. The Ombudsman, an independent constitutional body, has earlier restricted access to public official SALN as it required the owner's consent before a SALN request can be evaluated. Duterte's last publicly accessible SALN was in 2017, where he declared a net worth of 28.5 million pesos. A palace official says President Rodrigo Duterte has high approval ratings as he fulfilled his promises. Presidential Communications Secretary Martin Andanar says these accomplishments mainly include the campaign against drugs, crime, and corruption. He adds Duterte has also implemented policies for the welfare of indigent families and vulnerable sectors. He says this is why the president has a 91% approval rating based on a 2002 Pulse Asia survey. Under Duterte's term, the Malasakit Centers has already served over 2 million indigent Filipinos in need of medical and financial assistance since it was enacted in 2019. Farmers are also enjoying the benefits of the Free Irrigation Service Act. Andanar adds the PCOO plays a vital role in informing the public about the accomplishments of the Duterte administration. The PDP Laban wing, led by Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi, is not giving up over Senator Christopher Bongo's decision to decline the party's nomination as their presidential bet in next year's elections. In a letter to Senator Go, Cusi says while they understand Go's position over the issue, they are firm on having him as their standard bearer. Cusi says the party trusts and believes in Go's leadership qualities and values, which include innate goodness and goodwill, which was proven through the establishment of malasakit centers nationwide. He adds the fact that Go refused the nomination shows his humility. On Monday, Go formally declined the party's nomination in a letter to Cusi, saying he is not interested in the presidency. Meanwhile, some 250 distressed overseas Filipino workers are set to return to the country from Kuwait tomorrow. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III says the group consists of 80 OFWs from the Migrant Workers and Other Overseas Filipinos Resource Center, or MWOFRC, while the rest are domestic and company workers. Some of them have already finished their contracts or have expiring exit visas, while some were victims of employment contract violations. The workers were rescued through a Qatar Airways chartered flight arranged by the government. Bello assures the distressed workers will receive various forms of assistance and will also be transported back to their hometowns. Up next, a member of the United Church of Christ in the Philippines dares its leaders to prove that they are not coddling communist terrorist groups. And about 4,000 tourism workers are set to get vaccinated in celebration of Baguio City's Charter Day. We're back after a quick break. Stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. A member of the United Church of Christ in the Philippines, or UCCP, has challenged their national leaders to officially denounce the New People's Army. Dio Rafael Ratunil raised the concern in a Facebook post, saying their leaders who are enraged about alleged extrajudicial killings should be equally indignant about the brutality of NPA rebels. Ratunil questioned the use of the tithes paid to the church as he asked to clear the members' mind whether they do not support terrorists financially. Ratunil also wanted to know if consultations were made before the UCCP posted its rants about the government. He said their church speaks so much about corruption, poverty, injustices, and oppression, but can't speak candidly against the NPA and its crimes. He expressed dismay that political topics are inserted during Bible studies, midweek prayer meetings, and Sunday school. Residents of Tagum City can now apply for the Philippine Identification Card at Robinson's Place Mall that has been designated as an official registration center for the Philippine Identification System. Mall executives signed a memorandum of agreement with the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, on August 17. A portion of the mall's Level 2 will process registrations Mondays to Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. PSA Davao del Norte Chief Statistical Specialist Pepito Amoyen assured that stringent safety and health guidelines like safe physical distancing and wearing of face masks are being observed. Tagum City is under general community quarantine with heightened restrictions until August 31. In our news overseas, the United Nations Security Council voted on Monday to urge the rapid and secure reopening of the airport serving Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, after U.S. forces complete their withdrawal from the war-torn country. The Council approved 13-0 a resolution noting that further terrorist attack may take place in the area of Hamid Karzai International Airport, following last week's attack that claimed over 170 lives. The resolution calls for steps to strengthen security and to prevent further casualties. It specially notes a statement from the Taliban saying the hardline group committed that Afghans will be able to leave anytime and anywhere, including at the reopened and secured Kabul airport. The UN has said it is critically important to keep the airport open to allow aid to flow into Afghanistan. The city government of Baguio has set aside 4,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines as part of its 112th Charter Day celebration. The three-day vaccination activity at the Baguio Country Club recognizes the tourism industry's contribution and assures the protection of workers and their clients. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat is expected to grace the culmination at the Baguio Convention Center on September 1. The activity is a collaboration among the DOT Cordillera, City Government, Hotel and Restaurant Association of Baguio, Baguio Tourism Council, BCC, and Navy Reserve volunteers. Only 454 or 8.3% of the over 5,000 registered workers in tourism-related establishments have been vaccinated since the rollout began in March. Baguio opened its borders to tourists in September 2020, applying the concept of a tourism bubble. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. As deaths are stemmed despite an increase in the number of infected patients, President Duterte calls for a recalibrated response against the spread of COVID-19. Malacanang says the support for the ICC probe on the war on drugs does not mean a drop in the support for the government's anti-drug policy. The Labor Department rescues and brings home 250 distressed Filipinos from Kuwait. And a member of the United Church of Christ in the Philippines dares its leaders to prove that they are not coddling communist terrorist groups. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.